dipping a kid in feces, this story ends tragic. And I believe that it's not about how much effort you put in. It's not that I want you to try your hardest. I want you to do what's required.
I disagree with that completely.
Please try to understand.
That's what will make snowflakes.
If you please try to understand what I'm saying without interrupting.
Oh, wait, stop. Okay, bro.
No.
Wait, stop.
I don't see the difference, but
What's wrong with you, bro? You're finished. You're finished. You're gonna put that out if I was look, little man, you watch this.
No, listen. You want him to talk to me?
No, him.
Let me finish my point.
You tied to what?
What do you mean?
You just said you tied the effort. Tied the effort to what?
To the praise.
I'm confused. What are you talking about? Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Brothers and sisters, welcome back to another episode of Chai with my Bhai. Today, we're going to be talking about red flags when it comes to parenting. Things that will turn good kids in madrasa into drug dealers and fornicators. Things that mashed you up as a child growing up. And at the end, we'll be telling you the one most important thing that you need to do and you need to know if you're dealing with terrible parents. Make sure you stick to the very end of the video. I promise you, you're going to regret it if you miss out on this one. With that said, Assalamu alaikum, guys. So the reason why we're doing today's episode, obviously, look, three of us are parents, right?
I'm not a parent.
Not a parent, yeah.
But on Child Mobile, you can still speak as a parent.
On Child Mobile, you speak as a parent.
Sometimes, but
And you had experience.
I thought I would contribute.
As an older brother.
Yeah, sure. And also as somebody who has good parents.
Who has good parents, mashallah.
But you also the father of Sunnah Match.
I guess so, yeah.
So you are a dad.
In some ways, yeah.
And obviously,
maybe not in the religion, but yeah.
Parenthood is an extremely important topic, especially in the deen or just in society, because at the end of the day, a good household will produce good children who then obviously will have a good impact on society. So the reverse is also true. Being a bad parent is going to be a reason for society to fail, for society to have detriment to it, because at the end of the day, you weren't a good parent. So let's get into the very first.
Not just that, just to add on, like the akhirah is at stake. Like Allah Azza wa Jalla said, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. Wa ahlikum nara. Allah said, oh, you believe, save yourselves and your family from the hellfire. وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةِ. The thing that fuels that fire is the rocks and the flesh of the humans, i.e. save your wife and your kids from the fire. If not, your wife and your kid that you love so much will be the fuel that burns the fire. So not only will they burn in the fire, but they will be the fuel that fuels the fire to burn.
And we are all shepherds for our flock. The husband is a shepherd for his wife and for his children. The mother is the shepherd for the children in a sense as well. So it's important that we take this responsibility seriously. We know how to do it properly, and we also know the things that we shouldn't be doing.
Absolutely.
So the most problematic, I would say, out of everything we're going to mention today is ignorance of the deen. Huge problem. Now, there are many ways this manifests, which we're going to go into, but this single problem is going to be the biggest reason why people will end up in the hellfire, or the biggest reason why people will, of the ones we're going to mention, because just not knowing is a disease. And the cure for it, of course, is knowledge. Where does it start?
So if we're talking about in the context of a parent specifically, because in terms of you, it starts from like as in
when you're
like
born.
When you're born, puberty, like at the age of 7, you should be praying yourself. We're talking as your journey as a parent, like where does it start? So the scholars mention that the point at which your duties and your responsibilities as a father start is at the time you're selecting a woman for marriage.
Or vice versa,
At the time of the woman, the
father.
And to illustrate how deep this is,
5,000 dead, and that number could go up to over 40,000. My brothers and sisters, you've all heard of the floods that have hit Libya recently. It's an absolutely tragic event. Our brothers and sisters are in need of our help. That's why today on Chai Mobile, we're asking you, the viewer, to take matters into your own hands. Number 1, make dua for them. Number 2, click the link in the description and donate generously whatever you can afford to give. But make sure you accompany that with your dua. Barakallahu feek. With that said, let's get back into the episode, inshallah.
You know, a man came to a sheikh after his wife had just given birth, a few months after, and he said, Sheikh, what advice would you give me on how to raise my kid? And the sheikh said, how old is your child? He said, a few months. He said, Fatak al-fursa. He said that the opportunity has already left you. And the guy was like, what? I thought I'm early. My kid's only a few months old and I'm already thinking about how to raise him. He said, Fatak al-fursa. He said, you should have asked this question at the time you were selecting the woman to raise your kid.
And the reason why that's obviously so powerful, so true is your wife is the one that's going to spend the most time with your child. She's going to be the madrasa, she's going to be the school for that child as he's growing up. Especially if you're homeschooling, which obviously, you know, in this day and age especially, a lot of people are going to choose to do. Your wife's going to be the one that's at home. Whether you get a tutor to come and teach the actual education side of it, or whether she teaches herself, she's the one. They're going to be learning her manners. They're going to be learning her etiquettes. You know, if she wears the correct type of clothing, that would be a reason for them to look up to her and say, look, I want to wear that type of clothing. Her mannerisms, like everything, they will take that from her.
You know what's worse than a child spending time with an ignorant woman? Is that woman being so ignorant, she doesn't want to spend time with the child. She says, sit in front of the TV. Or let me bring this nanny to you who knows nothing about the deen. Or let me send you to school and let people that have no sense of morality or justice or right or wrong raise you and teach you and fit into you whatever nonsense. Like, it would be better to be with a woman that's jahil than to be with people that are going to actually be pouring filth that you have no control. Does that make sense? But this woman, to know that she's going to have the patience and the forbearance to be able to take care of the kids, spend time, that's something that needs to be conscious of the selection process. There's something that you mentioned, Akhi, once on a Relationship Goals podcast, right? If you want an advice that your father gave.
Yeah, damn. My dad said to me that you should choose a woman if you would be happy to have a daughter just like her, because eventually, if you have a daughter, she will emulate what her mum is like.
Absolutely.
Just like your son will emulate what you're going to be like. So likewise, a sister should search for a husband who she would be happy to have a son just like him.
And the apple, wallahi, doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah, it's true. Wallahi, how many times we've seen it, whether it's in our own lives or we've seen it in other people, the very things people criticize their parents for, you find that same thing inside of them, whether it's in a different way or slightly different way, but that same thing will be there in some way, shape or form. Yeah. The next point.
So just I want to mention 2 points on that.
Okay.
On that. The first point is, you know, what to look for in a woman's deen. Because a lot of people, when they hear deen, like, what are you supposed to look for? What does that mean? Like, is it just words? Because a lot of time when brothers go to marriage meetings and they see a woman talk about, I want to seek knowledge, I want to do hijrah, or, you know, I'm so interested in this ayah in the Quran, you think she's practicing. Or the woman thinks that the guy's practicing. Like, what does that actually mean? There's a statement Imam al-Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala gave a checklist of what to look for and what to ask, what to question in a marriage meeting. He said, number one, when you ask about her deen, he said, you ask about her salah. Like, is she consistent on her salah? And how does she pray? How is she with the rest of her salawat? You ask about what? Her fasting. Does she fast? The third thing he said you ask about is her manners. The fourth thing you ask about is her shyness. Does that make sense? And we don't just mean here in terms of the clothing, even though that's necessary, but even her character. He said the next thing you ask is, does she stay at home? Does she stay at home? Or is she a woman that likes to be out and about? He said, you also look at how is she with regards to her parents. Is she obedient to her parents? Is she dutiful to her parents? You also look at her parents, because the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Does that make sense? So you look at her mom, you look at her dad, how are they and how have they raised? Now, sometimes a parent could be bad and the girl was good, no problem, inshallah ta'ala, but generally speaking. And then he said, you ask about, remember, this is all he's saying, ask. He's not saying check it out in the conversation that you have at the marriage meeting, because she might tell you what you want to hear. Ask about these things.
Observe.
Ask the parents, ask the people that know her in the community, ask these things about her parents, and also ask about her tongue. Does she
gossip, like by talk about people in a negative way?
Does she say good things? Does she say bad things? Wallahi, that's a checklist, you know. Wallahi, that's actually a checklist, you know.
You guys should make that.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Yeah. Salah, fasting, manners, shyness. Do you stay at home? Your relationship with your parents, and your tongue. Like, how is your tongue? Does she lie? Does she backbite? Does she gossip? Also he mentioned, he said, is she gentle with her tongue? Is she nice? Is she soft? You know what I'm saying? All these things.
Another huge issue when it comes to ignorance of the deen, that again starts before the child is even born, is not knowing the dua for it that you read for intimacy? Why is that problem sad?
And did you not want to mention another point? Sorry.
Yeah, it's cool. He does this.
Huh?
He does this sometimes.
I have to bring you in, brother.
Don't worry.
Huh?
Talk.
The question asked is what the dua before.
Dua for intimacy. Why is that a problem to not know that dua?
The problem for that is because the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that if a person doesn't make it, then shaitan will touch that child. And if a person wants, that which they're going to have in terms of offspring be protected from shaitan, it's important that a person makes his dua.
Okay, anyone else got any other?
I mean, your kids are, that dua is seeking refuge with Allah, in Allah, from shaitan for your kids.
Yeah.
So the shaitan, your kids are not safe from shaitan. As in, look at that, you're conscious of, I want to protect my kids from shaitan at the point of conception.
Yeah.
I'm saying before,
And
you have to understand, that's even before
If
you
you
penetrate
skip it or you forget it or something, it's a disservice. It's one of the rights that your child has that you've forsaken it. You can't give that right back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that most people don't realize, that we always
Starting
hear
off on the
about.
wrong foot, as they say.
Say that again, sorry?
So you're starting off on the wrong foot.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when it comes to the rights of parents and child, we always know how great the rights of the parents are, right? And that
It's spoken about all the time, all the lectures, all the
and
reminders.
it's wajib because actually kids are terrible with their parents. It's a disease and it's one of the biggest problems that we suffer from today, and it's a major sin, right? To not be dutiful to your parents. So definitely the rights of the parents are great, but people don't realize that the rights of the child might not be as big as the rights of the parents, but they start before the rights of the parents even kick in.
Yeah.
The rights of the parents kick in after the kid what?
Yeah, he's older.
He's been born, his puberty's got, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like a 2-year-old, 3-year-old baby has.
He doesn't owe rights to his parents.
Yeah, but the parents owe rights to him.
Yeah.
And I'm saying the rights of the child begin, before you're even married.
Yeah, that's okay.
And in intimacy, this dua is made before you penetrate.
Yeah.
So do you understand? So the rights of the child are early. So what's shocking is that a woman's pregnant with a kid, and all they're talking about is the nursery. All they're talking about is it a boy and a girl. All they're talking about is the colour of the wallpaper. All they're talking about is just get the nappies. Bro, what about the iman of the kid? Some scholars mentioned that a woman should read the Quran loud enough because at a certain age the child can hear things in the
Sounds developing hearing.
When
yeah.
is it?
I don't know.
It's before the kid's born. That's
before
what
the
it
kid's born.
When it happens.
Right.
I think with the third trimester.
In the third trimester, right? And it reads, so then the kid starts hearing the Quran before it's even born, but you're playing the kid music.
Or you're listening, you might not even do it for the kid. If you're there scrolling on TikTok and there's music coming, there's this coming, the kid's going to be hearing that. Whether you intend it or not is irrelevant. But the fact that it's even happening is going to be, if you're walking around in places.
Modern day first world problem.
If you're walking around in places where there's music playing regularly and so on and so forth, or things are happening, whatnot, all of that is going to have an effect. The next thing, raising the children, giving birth to the children in the lands of the kuffar. Again, this all is before. Like you've settled, you made your home, whether you were born there or not, but you've decided that your children will be born into the lands of the kuffar. Like, obviously there's difference. Someone might, for whatever reason, have their children born there, but then have a plan. I want to move. But some people don't. They're just happy. They're content with being where they are.
They actually like it like that.
They actually like it, or they prefer it for whatever reason. Why is that problematic?
I'll tell you, it's just because of conflicting moral values. What ends up happening is that the child will be born and raised among a specific type of societal norm, which may conflict with the religious one. So what eventually happens with the kid, and I've seen this happen in
Are you saying
real
British
life.
values are bad?
I'm saying some of them are definitely really bad. Yeah.
Okay.
Some of them are good, sure, but some of them are bad. Yeah.
What are they?
I'll be honest with you, till today I have not figured out what are British values.
Prime ministers always talk about it.
Yeah, all I know is
Fish and chips.
British values or
fish and chips.
Yeah. It's the only country that they've stolen values from everywhere in the world and they have none left. Anyways, yeah, no, what I'm saying is that he'll be raised with what is communally acceptable in his environment, in his area. And what the deen says, what the text says, is obviously sealed from hundreds of years ago or 1,000 years ago. And if he isn't raised with that, when it eventually comes his way through his, family or through his parents or whatever, it will be in conflict with the stuff that he learns at school. And it's especially relevant. People are beefing about it today with regards to, for example, like the LGBT stuff in school, for example. That's one example, just one. But I'm saying, similarly with the same stuff, there's societal expectations and norms that they will be pushed into, which they will find internal conflict when they are faced with, but have to follow the deen though. Do you see what I mean?
That's why
I'm saying save your kid from that, bro. Why would you? For what reason would you subject this person, this child? You want what's best for them in the dunya. You want what's best for them in the akhirah. Why are you making the hurdles, the obstacles more difficult?
Bro,
than
we
they
know
need to be?
so many people that had complete identity crises.
That's what I was
growing
gonna
up,
say, yeah.
Because it was just like, bro, like, at the same time I got John, my friend in school, he did, you know, Halloween, Christmas, all these things, he eats pork, bacon, whatnot, it's all good. At the same time I'm being told it's all wrong, but then I'm mixing with him, going to his house, I'm chilling with him, he's my closest friend. Like, why can't I be like him? Like, why can't, you know, like Christmas, whether you like it or not, in the UK, Christmas, everyone's off. You know, like everyone's got a holiday, so naturally it becomes a time for people to meet up anyway. So it's like you kind of get not a love for it, but you look forward to it. I'm looking forward to what? Christmas holidays. I'm looking forward to Christmas time. Why?
Easter holidays.
Easter, because I get my that's when I get time off. That's when I get to see my family, and like these things, whether you realize it or not, bro. And that's why I can't lie. Like growing up, Eid wasn't really a big thing because Eid is like, bro, it's on a weekday, half time is half time, not there, going to one family houses, time of school, whatnot. But Christmas, I got 2 weeks, I got 3 weeks. People used to look. Growing up, people used to look forward to these holidays and festivals more so than the Islamic ones, which is, bro, it's because once again, there used to be lights, there used to be decorations, you go to the mall. Like here, obviously, it's different. Here, when Ramadan comes, when Eid comes, you got the decorations, you got the balloons, the kids love it. They're like, wow, they got bounty castles, all this, that. Here, it's made to be like a really...
The adhan.
Bro,
literally, because I take my daughter with me to the masjid, right? And... one day she came home and she just recited the iqamah. Like, she knows the adhan, but she started saying, قَدْ قَامَتِ الصَّلَاةِ قَدْ قَامَتِ الصَّلَاةِ. My wife was like, because my wife is the one that teaches most of the things that she knows. So she's like, I never taught you that. She looked at me, did you teach her that? I said, no, I didn't teach her that. And then I clocked, just by coming to the masjid. She had only come and heard the iqamah twice before that, and she had memorized it. And she, by the way, she's 3. Say Allah barik, right? So point being is that it's the environment. And look, do we accept that things in the West are tapped?
Yes.
Both kuffar will tell you they're tapped. Kuffar will tell you it's tapped. They're telling you, bro.
The ones that actually have their head screwed on.
Bro, even those who don't have their head screwed on are looking at this thinking...
No. The ones who don't have their head screwed on, they're like,
obviously, there's levels.
Am I a unicorn? Am I a cow? I'm a 4-legged...
Those are the ones who are unscrewed completely.
What I'm saying is it's become so obvious.
It's become so obvious.
It's undeniable now.
Yeah, and I'm saying, so it doesn't make sense for you, my act, to still be saying... oh, there's hope. Like, bro, they are leaving. Like, they are moving to the UAE. They are moving to Qatar, Malaysia. Like, they are saying, let's leave. Does that make sense? So point being is that it's so bad that you are trying to raise your kids to be clean, to be pure, to be morally upright, to be on their deen, but you're raising them in that place where they're going to school, they're being hit with all those different stimuli that are pushing them towards evil. Really, that's tantamount to, you know, dipping a kid in feces, and then when he comes home smelling of crap, saying, why do you stink like crap?
Yeah.
But you literally dipped your kids into filth. It's like taking a kid and throwing him into the water and saying, don't get wet.
Yeah. Now I'm saying you might forget, but when you're younger, a huge part of your life is your friends.
Yeah.
The friends you have at school are a huge part of your life. And I'm saying, even in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us the Jews and Christians are not our friends. Yeah? And I'm sure that can be extended. Well, sorry, I'm guessing that can be extended to the rest of the kuffar as well.
Yeah. So
I'm saying having that as a barrier, a border between the Muslim children and the non-Muslim children, and then putting them in the environment where they want to make friends as well. It's like, for example, telling a guy, listen, you can't free mix with women, and then he goes every day to the strip club. Every day.
Yeah.
What do you think is gonna happen, bro?
So what it really comes down to is what you're influenced by, right?
Yeah.
And either you're going to be influenced by the parents. Like if a person gets misguided, I really want to make this very clear. Obviously, guidance is in Allah's hands, and sometimes you can do everything right with the person and they still become misguided. But just let's be clear that that's not the norm. The norm is, like, if you work, like, it's true, you could put the work in and you still don't get paid at the end of the month because Allah didn't decree a risk for you that month. But then the way Allah has made it is that if you take the means, you will get what you seek. So if you do X, Y, Z, this kid will grow up to be guided. Yes, there are anomalous situations where, due to Allah's divine wisdom, He may cause this child to still not receive guidance for a greater good. But generally speaking, this child would not be misguided as long as really two things are in place. As long as two things are in place. Number one, the parents don't misguide the guy, the kid, and number two, the society doesn't misguide the kid. And the evidence for this, the Prophet said, "Kullu mawludin yuladu al fitra kama qal." That every single child is born on the fitrah. Period.
Yeah.
Every child is born good. Like I really want to. Every child is born stainless, taintless, pure, good.
But corruptible.
ولكن the Prophet said, أباه, the parents, يهوداني أو ينصراني أو يمجساني أو كما قال. But the parents take this kid to a different religion. The parents will take this kid towards a different religion. To become a Christian or a fire worshipper or whatever have you. It's the parents. So I really went to that. The Prophet is telling you the parents are the ones that took this kid away. So, okay, maybe the parents didn't cause this kid to become a Christian. But this kid's a sinner. You turned this kid into a sinner. This kid went and sold drugs. You led him to that. Okay, now this is the scary situation. Because we're talking about growing up in the West, right? Okay, you are actually righteous. And we've seen this, akhi. We've all seen this. Households where the father and the mother raised this kid and they did the best. Wallah, I've looked at parents and I can say, Wallahi, you went in. Like the kids that memorize Quran, everything. But that kid is selling drugs. That girl is sleeping around, getting impregnated, doing abortions. Akhi, what went wrong?
So it's the environment.
It's when they left. It's when they left the house.
Yeah.
It's the environment. Yeah. Does that make sense? The school that I went to had a masjid that was right next to it. So even though I wasn't really practicing at this time, I used to go and pray sometimes. Yeah. Right? And I'd go pray Dhuhr. And I remember every time I'd leave, and as I'm coming out, the masjid is right next to the school. There would be a girl with the Hindu boy in a corner, not in lessons, and they're doing filth in the corner. And I remember I'd leave because this was the back entrance. So this is the car park. So even lunchtime, no kids are there. And just you're walking to the masjid. You're leaving the school grounds, right? During the sixth form break. And I remember seeing them every time. I'd walk past them. And then I'd go and pray in Salah. And I'd most of the time pray next to an uncle in the front row. Every time. Months, maybe a year later, I found out that uncle was the father of that girl.
So he was literally walking to the masjid, and had he maybe walked 10 steps or 20 steps in another direction, he would have seen his daughter getting...
And I was literally walking between them.
Risky.
And imagine that. Like, there's an uncle I know who washes dead bodies in a masjid. And brother told me, his son, like, you will literally go to the ends and you will see his son is a crackhead. It's a good, and the uncle did his best, but what he failed in was raising the kid here. So you didn't do your best because you raised the kid. That's one of the reasons
why we
keep
ingredients,
pushing.
but you put the cake batter in the freezer as opposed to in the oven. Do you understand?
Bro, you put it in. You put it in the
fire.
toilet. No, you put it in the toilet seat and poo.
But the point is,
nothing good can come from that. That's basically it.
So the point there is, and that's one of the reasons why we push so heavily for this concept of hijrah, leave the lands of the West, leave the lands of the kuffar. Because at the end of the day, no matter how good you might be, your children are going to spend an incredibly long amount of time away from you. They're not going to be with you forever. There's only so much that you can do to have that influence on them. So the next thing that we mentioned is the issue of normalizing haram. And we gave a few examples of this, right? I'll just quickly go through the examples and we can discuss some of the ones that you might want to expand on. So mixing with the opposite gender. So whether that's with cousins, it's a big one, like free mixing with your cousins, pushing mortgages and university loans, riba. Huge one that many parents push on their children, do this. The correct hijab, this is something that parents don't encourage or tell their daughters to do. Lavish weddings where there's haram involved, free mixing, music, all these other things. Obligating the prayer from the age of 7. Many parents don't do it, and then when their children finally get to 15, 16, they're like, start reading namaz or salah, whatever. They get surprised when their son or daughter isn't praying. And last but not least, having a TV in the house, which obviously has music, women, all sorts of filth that's available there, you put that in front of them. So what are some of the examples that you guys want to discuss before we move on to the next one? I think you wanted to mention mixing with cousins.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'll speak about it, but I don't know if this is a fair comparison, because I know it's not prevalent in every culture, but it's very prevalent in Pakistani culture at the least, which is what I talk about now. But it might be prevalent in other cultures as well, so I guess it's the same story. But when I was growing up, I had cousins, like my dad's sister's kids, they're all a little either older than me or like around my age, but they're all girls, right? And when we were growing up, everyone was like, oh yeah, they're your sisters. And then I thought that was calm. Like I had no conception of the idea that perhaps maybe this may not be completely appropriate, right? And qadarullah, I kind of became practicing fairly a little bit early on in my life, so I realized that, hold on, this is not completely appropriate, because although like it's a family environment, so obviously nothing like inappropriate as inshallah is going to happen, but that's irrespective of the boundary that the Sharia creates between you and women who are not your mahram, like for example your cousins. And when I made a point about it, I was vilified. It was like
it's
what
part of the
doing?
culture, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like,
and it's like, bro, I'm just telling you what is in the religion. It's not me, and it's well established. Like you will not find people who differ on this. Do you
I remember
understand?
when I was getting married, like
Your cousins, you can marry them. That's
Yeah.
why they're not your mahram. Do you
like,
understand?
when I was getting married, and I remember making it clear that it's fully segregated, and even like after marriage, when if there's family gatherings, I'm only going to come if it's fully segregated. And like some of the older male relatives be like, wait, what? Like, why is that a problem? As in, like, what's wrong with like? Why are you hiding your wife away? Like,
Yeah.
why do you want to see my wife? Like, bro, it's gonna, or like your cousin, like your sons or your you guys got nothing to do with my wife. What are you talking about? So that's something that's really prevalent. I feel like even in-laws, that's the one way it gets slipped under the radar. Your brother-in-law, your sister-in-law, like, you're still not mahram. It doesn't matter. He might be married to your sister, or she might be married to your brother, or whatever. Bro, they're not your mahram. And
If
how many
anything, that's
times?
worse. If anything, that one's
How
worse.
many times have we heard people that cheat on their wife with her sister or her brother or his
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
sorry,
tell you-
his brother or her
I'll
sister.
tell you that story. So there was a brother who lived in his family home in America, yeah, and this story ends tragic. So there's a brother who's in the family home, and his brother lives there, his wife's there, and his kids are there, and he's got a few kids, like 3-4 kids, something like that. One day, the brother who's married, who's got the kids, he gets into a car accident. And he gets rushed to hospital, and the doctor realizes in doing some tests that there are some things wrong, but they also finds out that one of the things that's wrong with him, just found out unintentionally, he's not able to have kids. Does that make sense? And he's never been able to have kids. Like he
was born
was
with
infertile.
a defect.
he's infertile. Biologically,
Yeah,
he cannot
mad.
have kids. Does that make sense? So what the doctor did is he said to him, bring your... he didn't tell him straight away. Bring your kids in.
Yeah.
Or check them out. And said the blood is not the same. It doesn't match. The DNA doesn't match. These are not his children. Does that make sense? Upon investigation, they found out that his brother, his blood brother, was the one that was the father of the kids. He had slept with his wife, and she had given birth to every one of the children who are biologically not in the eyes of Sharia, because in the Sharia those kids are children of zina, even though they're innocent themselves.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah, we understand.
But those children biologically, the father was his own brother, man.
Yeah.
And that sounds mad, and it sounds it's a lot more common than
Oh,
you
bro,
think.
you have no
And
idea how come.
remember, the Sharia came to prevent these kind of things happening in the first place. And the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned specifically, if I'm not mistaken, he was asked, well, what about the brother-in-law? He mentioned that this is like death. Like, this is even worse. This is like...
Because you don't expect it.
Because you don't expect it. And it's like you're in close proximity. Oh, we're just siblings, whatnot. Little high fives. It's just like, whoa, like, draw that line.
And they say, oh, you don't trust me? It's not that I don't trust you, it's that I don't trust shaitan.
I don't trust
Like
shaitan.
what did Yaqub say to Yusuf when he said, don't tell your brothers, they might plot against you.
Yeah.
Not because the brothers are bad, he said, inna shaytana lil insani aduwwun, because the devil is a clear enemy to mankind.
Yeah.
So,
No, but also you can take trust out of the equation. You can just say it's a line drawn by the creator, and that's the end of the story.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Trust is irrelevant.
and you know, right, it's not... The problem here is that what most parents don't realize, that when you let your daughter or your son free-mix, with family members that are haram for them, you're actually setting the foundations for that kid to then free-mix in school. So I'll give you an example. If we take this down and we draw out like the worst possible outcome, this child got pregnant with some shaitan. Does that make sense? This daughter of yours got pregnant by some shaitan, right? That's like the worst case scenario, okay? But what led her to that? So what you have to understand is that zina
That's
is
a really good point,
Yeah.
As in for a person to be able to draw the boundaries between them and the opposite gender, they have to be trained. Like you have to train them.
You have to train
on
them,
that.
exactly.
Yeah. And a kind of soft training is like within the family.
Exactly.
Like this girl, she's your cousin. This guy, he's your cousin. But regardless, you have to maintain a healthy boundary. Of course, you're going to know each other because he's your cousin. She's your cousin. No problem. But it's not like a happy-go-lucky kind of relationship.
Exactly.
Like she's your sister, he's your brother. Like
and
that.
what you have to deeper is that zina is fornication is a sin that doesn't happen in the heat of the moment. Like, what I mean,
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, what I mean by that is, someone gets angry and he pulls out a gun, he shoots someone. Of course, that's evil, that's criminal.
They call it crime of passion.
But in the moment, yeah. But it's like it just happens due to anger. It just happens. Stealing just happens in the moment. But to do zina, bro, you have to get to know the girl. You have to talk to the girl. You have to go to her, be private with her, take off, your clothing, all these things, and then bang.
Also conceal it later.
Right.
All of that stuff is a concerted effort.
So how does that happen? Is that as you're going deeper towards the sin, your shyness is decreasing. So what you have to understand is that shyness is a barrier inside of your heart that prevents you from evil. People think shyness is tantamount to fear. No, fear is fear. Shyness means that I have this barrier that I just can't present myself to this sin. I'm shy. Does that make sense? So what you do is that you break down the barrier of shyness. You make the shyness that your daughter or your son has weaker by forcing them to play around with what? Their cousins that they're not mahram. Then sending them to school, letting them free mix is getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And then they're going older and older, and then their hormones are raging, and then they, not receiving love at home, and then they're looking for it elsewhere. Then they're seeing all these things on TV and in music, and it's just the barrier's getting weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. And then they do zina. So, bro, you started it off by letting her hang around with people that were haram for her. What's the difference between her talking to the boy at school and saying, "Oh, we're just friends"? You're upset at that, but her cousin, you're not upset. They're both haram.
Both haram. And that's the thing, sin's put a black dot on your heart, right? So if she's doing that at home, black dot, black dot, black dot, black dot, till eventually the whole heart's covered, and then don't be surprised.
Not just that, but what people often complain about is like a form of repression, which is like, my dad never let me do this, and my mom never let me do that, and then they get like hit with this like wave of the opposite side. But I'm saying, if you just teach them from the beginning, this is not good for you, you shouldn't do this, they will have the fortitude inside to reject it themselves later when it comes along. They won't feel so overwhelmed by the wave of it when it comes.
So the next red flag, and I feel like this is one that people are really going to resonate with, is making yourself unapproachable to your child. And there's a variety of ways that this can happen. We're going to go through them, inshallah. The first one is telling off your children in public in a humiliating manner. Telling them off in public in front of other people in a humiliating manner, like you're berating them, belittling them, shouting at them. Why is that problematic?
Doing ABBAB. Huh? ABBAB, it stands for always be berating and belittling. That's some people's parenting style.
Oh. Saad, what are your thoughts on that, inshallah?
Yeah, most definitely, I believe it's a huge problem. When you tell your kids off and you do it in public where others can see as well, it's kind of like it's a sense of embarrassment as well in front of these people. To be honest, a similar thing happened with me and my kids, where once I was telling one of my daughters off.
So we've mentioned a lot of red flags and don'ts of parenting, but what are some green flags and do's of parenting? One of them is making sure your child gets the best Islamic education possible. And there is an institute called Oasis Institute, which teaches the children of many of the popular du'at that you see from the Western world. They are an online institute teaching Arabic studies, Islamic studies, and Quranic studies to children aged 4 and above. No, this is not sponsored at all. We've used them, we know they work, therefore we're telling you to use them also. However, there is one condition. The parents have to be extremely serious and ready to engage and get involved with their child's education. This is not a thing where you just leave them to and expect your child to come back a few years later as a scholar or a hafiz or whatever it might be. No, you have to be involved. You have to engage. You have to get involved with the teachers every step of the way. So if you're serious, then contact them at the number in the description, inshallah. May Allah bless you and your children. Let's get back into the episode.
But I was telling her off in front of her sibling and her mum, and I could tell in that moment.
So you're saying even amongst other family members?
Yeah,
not just public, meaning out in the shopping mall?
Oh yeah, of course. That
never even came to my mind.
Because the thing is, and I explained myself, when I told my eldest daughter off, I could see that she felt very uncomfortable about it because her other sibling was sitting there looking and watching, and as a result, when the whole discussion ended, I saw her younger sister being a bit rude to her, right? And that only came because of the fact that she saw, oh look, Dad's telling her off, she's naughty, I can also say something to her as well. But
that's profound.
And then on top of that, my eldest daughter I told off, she didn't want to speak to me about it. She only wanted to speak to her mum. So even her mum kept saying, go speak to dad, go speak to Abba, go speak to him. But she didn't want to in the moment because she felt really embarrassed the way that I did it. And I guess that you know, extends to, you know, in whoever it may be that's in that gathering. And you kind of close that door off. If you keep doing it continuously again and again, and there's no explanation as well, the child is going to think, you know what, I'm just always getting in trouble. I'm always getting humiliated. What's the point of me speaking to this person? They don't even give me a chance. You should just close that door for yourself. That door's completely closed.
Wow,
and
so
they
deep,
will
man.
find somebody else that would be more willing to speak to them. More
Yeah,
willing
I've
to listen
seen
to
that.
them.
I've seen it where like a child will be put down or like constantly humiliated by their parents, and then they turn towards other people in the family, like their uncle, their auntie, somebody else, and then the parents feel like, and the parents feel betrayed. It's like, whoa, you know, I thought you were supposed to be loyal to me, but you pushed away already.
Next one, punishing the bad and not rewarding the good.
So a way to link the previous point to this one here is that one of the ways you close off your kids is by and not coming across, you close yourself off and make yourself not approachable is by punishing them for when they do approach you.
Yeah.
Like a child comes to you and talks to you about something that they saw, or they heard, or they felt, or they want, and it's wrong and it needs to be corrected.
Or they might have done something wrong, like they broke something, and they come to you and they tell you, and you get angry at them. They're gonna look, okay, next time I need to lie.
So you've actually punished them for the good that they've done
because they told the truth. So they're gonna, but in their mind, it's not going to be I did something wrong. That's why I'm getting everything. I told the truth, and that got me punished.
And one of the most common manifestations of this is the kid comes to you and says to you, let's just say he comes to you assuming that you have some type of, you know, approachability. I want to get married. Bro, take that seriously. The moment you shut it down, or you come, like if you come across what most people, be patient, don't worry, you're too young, bro.
You open the doors to zina.
Bro, this kid's got a raging fire inside of him right now, or her, and you did not put it out. And there's only one way to put it out. Does that make sense? and you didn't facilitate that, so now you've sent this kid to go and burn.
And this will ruin the child's self-esteem as well. Like if they're never getting praised for the good that they do, and they're only getting punished or berated for the bad things that they do, it's really toxic, because in their mind it's like, so am I worthless?
I can never do any good.
I've never done anything good. But that's why, like, even with my son now, what I really try and do is anytime he does anything, I really try, even if it's the smallest, most trivial thing, he just finishes his plate. Wow.
Celebrate it.
Yeah,
Yusuf.
bro, have to.
Now, like, when he finishes his play, he goes like Abuji, I finished. Like, he's excited to show it. Then I'm like, wow, look, you did it. But there's a balance though. You can't go to an extreme, because what a lot of parents do is they make their children delusional. Like, you got 8th place. Trophy, like buy him a trophy, throw a party, like, bro, no, as in, because that's now you're not preparing that child for the real world.
Not
the real world,
place, bro. Come on,
that's
ridiculous.
That's really important,
because you can't overpraise even when praise isn't deserved.
Yeah.
Because then they're gonna get used to just being praised all the time. That's why when someone finally does, when the real life finally comes and hits them in the face, they be like, but what? I thought I was invincible. I thought I was going to be, you know, I thought, like, my dad always told me, yeah, you're going to be in the Premier League. No, what are you
So the question is, okay, let me ask a question. Okay, you want to say something?
No, just on that point, I was going to say it's true, because then the children, they will always believe as if like they're deserving of much more.
Yeah.
I had a similar thing with my daughter when she was memorizing Quran. So her first time when she memorized her first juz, I gave her a really big reward for it, right? But enough for me to make sure that when she does more, there's a higher reward that I can give to her. So it's like one time, and I also do it based upon the timing as well. So if she does it quickly, she'll get a bigger reward. If she does it in longer time, she gets less of a reward. So even sometimes she'll argue with me, say, "Look, but last time I finished it and you gave it to me," and I was like, well, you only got that because you did it very fast and you were disciplined.
So
you did
put
it.
more effort.
You put more effort.
Yeah.
So you get the high
gradually,
reward.
That's what I was gonna say.
So you still get
Gradually
celebrated, but it's you have to be careful how much you give and how much you don't. Otherwise,
even big companies do that. If you look like stuff like Apple, I mean, it's a bit of a,
That's right.
but like Apple, like they've got technology to make the cameras way better than it is now, but they'll just gradually improve it. Why? Because each time they want you to. Is that even relevant? Oh, I just completely.
No,
it's relevant. Yeah,
it's relevant,
you sure?
it's relevant.
As I was saying, that's like thinking, wait, that's not even relevant to this. That's not even relevant to this conversation.
I've got something that's a bit
I've actually completely lost that train of
Yes.
thought.
I feel like you had something, but
I had something, and then
it's going to come back, inshallah. So the point I wanted to mention is, okay, so this is actually an issue though, yeah? Because you don't want to praise a kid for 8th place, making them feel like they can just get by in life being 8th best. But at the same time, you don't want to berate
Disparage
them.
them, yeah.
So how do you do it then?
You have to
'Cause I
praise
haven't
them.
thought about this.
You have to praise them based on the effort. If they try so hard and they only get 8th place, you're like, I'm so happy you tried.
I'm proud of you for the effort you put in,
For as
and
much
you'll
you
get
tried.
the next time.
Yeah.
Keep training, keep trying,
Yeah.
you'll get better.
So I think that's the point.
In the same way, for example, if you have a kid who's like more
But it's not about
athletic-
effort though,
No,
actually.
no, listen.
I feel like
What I'm
results
saying-
are important.
What I'm saying is that if you have a kid who's more talented in one arena and that kid is always praised for their achievement, when the other kid is not talented in that particular arena and he's not praised for his achievement, even though he might try harder so he can match up or whatever, there's a mismatch there. They have to be praised based on their effort.
No, but I think that's dangerous. I don't rate this whole effort stuff
Why?
personally because
No. As
effort
in,
is a very
what I think trying to say is,
subjective
like if you judge 20 different animals on their ability to climb a tree, not everyone's built for climbing a tree. Monkeys
Like a
are great
fish.
at climbing trees, but if a fish is being judged on how its ability to climb a tree, that's when people say that about exams. They say exams is a
No,
bit.
these are two different things.
I thought that-
No,
that's
I
what-
think- no, that's definitely
Okay, explain
yeah.
this.
as in what he was saying is don't assess a child's ability based
the
on the
outcome.
same
Yeah.
thing that you assess like everyone
Why
else.
not? I want that child to be number one. I want him to be. I want that child's Quran to be the best. This kid, I want him to be the strongest.
So
the
you
toughest.
praise him how much he
missing-
tries to get number one.
No, but-
do you understand? Some kids might be better.
But he
just
might.
by-
But
just
then,
by-
but then
just
if
by-
that's the case, he might just get comfortable at where he's at, and all the time use my effort as a proof and just never get to one.
No,
No,
you're
but
telling me
there-
you're going to
there
try
will be
again.
things
You have to make him try harder.
That,
Yeah.
and
But how
also
do you
there
do
are
that?
things that
You have
that
to put things
child.
in
Because you
place.
praise him for his effort.
No, because the
100%
arena.
effort.
No. If they try their hardest, the arena will still teach them that they're not the best. Do you understand?
Yeah.
You don't have to be the one to put that in there.
No, I don't-
You
I-
have to be the one to tell them,
I
try
wouldn't-
again. You're going to win number one jiu-jitsu next time.
I don't want to leave
Do
it
you
up to the
understand?
arena. I want to make sure that I communicate to the point to this kid is that listen, my kid, you got 8th place, bro, and that's not good enough. You have to get better.
Yeah, you can. That's not. You can say yeah. You
But
need
will
to
you
get
not
better.
have that himself
But the
inside
point-
Not
anyway?
necessarily, no.
People
But
don't have
the
a sense
point
of
is-
achievement and
necessarily,
accomplishment.
especially because these guys, they will tell him, "Oh, well done, you did 8th place."
No, we're
That's
not
good."
saying well done, you did
No,
8th place. We're saying
no.
I'm proud of you for trying as hard as you did, but you're going to get
But
it
you need
next
to get
time.
ne-
But effort, I don't believe that that's a good metric to measure. I've seen people who.
But it's an input-based metric. They have to try to get the effort
I've
reward.
seen people always perform at substandard levels and justify their lack of greatness due to how much effort they put in. And I believe that it's not about how much effort you put in. It's not that I want you to try your hardest. I want you to do what's required. As in, I feel like what's
But
more
trying
important.
your hardest
No,
is
but that's
doing
no.
what's
Because
required.
No,
let's say there's a, like your
So,
parent
if
want you
you
to
guys
get
give me a
an
chance to
A.
explain. If you guys give me a chance to explain. So I understand that this kid can't go from being 10th place to 1st place. Does that
Okay.
make sense? So I feel like what needs to be explained to this child is there's a continuum. Does that make sense? So it's not that you're terrible because you got 8th place, nor is it that you're best because you got 8th place. But you need to explain to this child that there is a continuum of results and efforts.
The higher you score, the
And-
better you are.
Right. So, and I feel like and again, I have this. I'm happy you guys disagree with me because this is a thought that I've had, and I've not really been in this situation
Sure.
just yet. But this is how I'd like to think I would approach
Mm-hmm.
the situation with my kid. That if my kid got 8th place, I would praise them for having gone from no place to 8th, but let them know that the next target is
Wait,
7.
what? You praise them for going.
I will
from-
praise them for having accomplished something.
That's effort.
No, the result of being 8th, not trying your hardest, but the result of
You're going to praise 8th place in and of itself.
As in, I'm
I disagree with
praising.
that completely.
Please
That's,
try to
fine.
understand.
that's
I
what
wouldn't
will
agree
make
with
snowflakes.
If you please try to understand what I'm saying without interrupting.
Go for it.
The point I'm mentioning is that you praise the kid for having achieved something. As in, you've achieved something. Does that make sense? It's not that you.
What have you achieved?
If you let me finish.
8th place.
Could you let me finish? Could you let me finish? The point here is not that I'm attacking 8th place. I want to get to 1st. So how do I push this kid to 1st without making him feel rubbish? And how do I not praise him for 8th in a way that doesn't let them move? So what we're letting him know is that, look, 1st is the target, and I'm so happy that you went from 100th to 8th. But now we need to go back and hit the drawing board and get 7, 6, 5. As in, let the kid know that there's a continuum and there is a requirement for you to constantly get better. So today I will praise you for having got somewhere. But if you drop below that or don't improve, next time you don't deserve praise.
You literally said the same thing.
No, because
You're praising the effort that they put in to
not
get
the
there.
effort, Habibi,
and at
the
the
result.
same
I'm
time, you're
praising the
telling
result.
that's
I-
wrong.
I-
You shouldn't praise 8th place.
I
Wait,
should, no,
wait,
I
no,
should. But in in the context of the kid being at 100, he got to 8. Of course, I'm going to praise that. But
So
then
you're
I'm
praising
going to.
the effort they put in to get there.
Not
You're
the
not
effort,
praising
brother,
eight
the
points.
result.
Do you know what's
The
also,
result.
you know what's also interesting, yeah, in this whole
We definitely
discussion?
disagree. We
You know,
definitely
you know,
disagree.
a
No,
lot-
I think there's no disagreement. I think you're saying the exact same thing.
No, there's a big disagreement.
But
There's a big
you
disagreement.
think you're disagreeing.
Because effort is something that's got nothing to do with results. I can get.
No, but you tie it as in it's not effort as in okay.
Yeah.
So you
like tie it
let's
to
say
what? Tie it to what?
in football.
Tie it to what? You tie it to what?
What do you mean?
You just said you tied the effort. Tie the effort to what?
To the
I'm
praise.
confused. What are you talking
No,
about?
to the result, bro.
What are you going to say to the result?
No, as in what I was going to say was, as in, if a kid's just running, let's say there's football, right?
Yeah.
And the kid's just literally running up and down the field, doesn't care what's happening with the ball, doesn't matter, he's just running. I'm not saying effort in that sense. We're saying we praise you for the effort that you put in to get to where you are.
Yeah.
But there's still more to go.
To get to where you are. What is
But
that?
you don't
Whatever
praise.
place
But as in,
it
I
is.
wouldn't
What is
praise
that?
like,
What
well
is-
done, you
what
got
is-
8th place.
What is where you are?
I don't understand
The
point you're
result, bro.
making.
It's the result. Where you are is the result.
That's what I'm saying. I don't believe there is a disconnect between what you guys are saying.
I'll tell you why. Because a person.
I believe it's just being worded slightly
No,
differently.
no, not at all. And I really feel like this is
No,
an
he's
important point.
talking about the achievement, not the effort. And I'm saying that the achievement is not in the kid's control. He can control how much he tries, whether he goes to practice or not, whether he's paying attention in the class or not. He can control that stuff.
No, I disagree.
He can't control the
achievement
outcome of the
in
game.
it is after Allah. It is
So
in
if
the
the
control
kid
of the
tries really hard and
Him-
they still lose the game, it's his fault.
No, the kid can if
He goes to every practice, he
Let me ask you
listens to what the coach
okay,
says,
okay.
everything the
One
coach
second,
says he
one
does
second.
it, but they still lose the
let's
game. Is
use-
that the kid's fault?
Okay, let's use memorization of the Quran for a second, yeah?
Sure.
If the kid had a year to memorize the juz and he didn't memorize the juz or he didn't
But why
memorize
does
it
he
as
have
well
a
as
year to
possible.
memorize the juz?
I'm just
That's
giving
the
an
point.
example, just giving you a scenario.
Sure.
I'm saying that can only mean that he didn't do what was required
Why?
Which is what?
because he would have got it.
No,
what's-
wait, wait,
but
wait.
why-
Imagine he
why-
put in 100% and he still didn't get it. Then what?
If you put in 100%.
The
he
best
still
he
didn't
could-
get it.
the best he could do,
Yeah,
yeah.
so he has to improve.
But he did 100%.
The best he did
So you
wasn't
wouldn't
enough.
praise him anyway.
Yeah. So and he didn't do
The
it.
best he did was not enough
Wait,
to
wait.
get number one.
By the way,
So
you
what-
know the example of the Quran is a bit different
Go on, why?
because it requires the parent to put a huge amount of effort in the
Effort
first
in the
place.
kids.
It requires. My point here is that it requires the parent to put a huge amount of effort in all of these things. All of these things.
No, these
Yeah.
are separate points.
All of
I'm
these
just
things.
saying
Now,
that
for
you,
example, if I take my kid to jiu-jitsu, does that make sense? It's
Okay.
upon me to not just send the kid to jiu-jitsu. The same way I've got to practice the Quran, I've got to make sure that I facilitate either through myself or some other means practice for the kid. What I'm saying is that if you teach a kid, listen, bro, it's based on your effort. The effort is subjective and I can't measure that. Does that
How
make
is the
sense?
effort
I can
subjective?
only measure the results. So what I will do to not disparage the kid is to tell him, you've achieved something. And I'm proud of you for doing that. But my brother, my son, my daughter, this is life. And you got a couple more years till you become the best. So now let's go back into the drawing board. Let's go back into the lab. Let's get back into the gym. Next time, you're going to come out 7th. I don't mind if you don't get number 1 next
But
time.
you're
But
not
you
his
must
coach,
improve.
though. You're his dad.
You must improve
He wants
until
you-
you get to 1.
I do understand where you're coming from.
You understand?
I don't see the difference, but
You don't see a difference?
As in, no, as
I
in-
definitely disagree.
I
100%.
believe there's not as big a difference as it's
There's
being
a
made out to
massive
be.
difference. Wallahi, shall I tell you why?
As in, no, but he's not saying, even he's not saying effort with no relevance at all to achievement. And you're not saying achievement with no relevance at all to effort.
Yeah.
You're both saying
You're just
effort and
highlighting
achievement.
achievement.
You're
Yeah,
both
but-
saying effort and
But you're
achievement. It's just
highlighting-
wording
But
it in a slightly
I'm
different
kind
way.
of inclined to maybe
Because both
even-
of you are saying, yes, you did good, but there's more to do.
But I don't even think again, by the way, guys, I want to, as in these are thoughts I'm not in this situation and these are things that...
Don't worry, no one's
we'll
going to hold you to
discuss with
account
guys.
what you say now.
No, because I don't want people to just follow what I'm saying blindly because these are just thoughts I'm having. But
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking that I wouldn't even rate the effort. Just the result.
So if your child
You know me, when it comes to
came
brothers that I
10th
work
place
with...
out of 10, there's no 100, there's 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
They came 10th. You're just going to say,
Is it 10 from nothing? Is this the first competition? Is it the first time? Is this their first effort? Then I don't, as in there has to be a point to start at, right? Because otherwise I've disparaged the kid. So you've gone, there is a starting point.
I'm sorry.
I
Could
know,
you speak a little bit slower? I don't really understand what you're saying.
Okay, good. I'm saying
by the way,
that,
guys, we've got a lot more points to go through. Yeah?
are we saying that this kid is at 10th place because this kid has been trying for like 2 years and never improved.
No, I'm saying it's sports day. He is coming up. He has a race.
My kid will never have sports day. He will never, he will never race.
Let's say we arrange a sports day amongst our friends and our kids.
Yeah, okay,
Our kids are all taking part in sports day.
Sports day is once a year, okay? The kid knows he has to run, okay? And he goes, okay, listen, in year 7, I came last and I don't want to come last. So the whole year, between the first sports day and the second sports day, he practices. He goes to the park, he runs, he goes to his PE teacher. He's like, teach me how to be a fast runner. The teacher tells him what to do. He does it every time, every single time.
So
he puts in 100% effort.
He'll be number 1 then.
No. He puts in 100% effort.
Why? It could be genetics.
That's not about effort.
No.
He does what's required.
No, wait, stop. Okay, bro. The same way I let you finish. You're gonna let me finish, right?
Please, sir.
Cool. So he came in 10th the first time.
Yeah.
The next time he comes 4th or 3rd. Is that the kid's fault?
No, I'll rate the kid. I'll say, bro, you went from 10 to 4.
No, but I'm saying.
Let's say they come 10th.
Yeah,
they
comes 10th again. Comes 10th again.
And he spent the whole year training.
Practicing.
Yeah. What's wrong with you, bro? You're finished. You're finished.
One second.
You're gonna put out the phone and say, look, little man, you watch this.
No, listen. But what I'm saying is that doesn't happen, though, bro. You're talking about a situation that doesn't exist in the real world.
No, it can happen.
No, it doesn't happen.
Because
you're telling me a kid goes and trains for a year.
I'm saying
it can happen. It can happen.
Shall I tell you what can happen? Let me see what can happen. Because every single other kid, 1 to 9, do the same thing.
Okay, good.
And they could have a genetic advantage. They could have an advantage, whatever it is.
Why? It's a real life thing. The real world will hit them with that.
Shall I tell you why? Here's the thing. If this kid, let's just say my kid is number 10. Yeah? Let's just say my kid is number 10, the first ever race that happens.
Okay.
That means that these other kids have a genetic advantage, right?
No, it doesn't mean that necessarily.
They could have tried harder.
Or they started before the kid.
He could have had a bad day. The kid wasn't feeling well.
They got some advantage.
No,
They got some advantage.
whatever it was, yeah.
No worries.
It doesn't have to be
could
one.
be
It could be
genetic
most.
advantage. It
Could be
could be
qadr Allah. On that day, the husband not feeling well. Have there not been days where you don't feel physically fit?
Yes, you're right. My point is that they had an advantage. They had an advantage. So these kids have started the race of the race ahead. They've got an advantage.
Okay.
Maybe a year, maybe 6 months, maybe a month, maybe 2 months. There's an advantage. The next year, all these kids think, listen, we're going to come out number 1. We're going to train. We're going to have to, we're out here racing for our dad's reputation. Yeah. Okay. So they're going to train for a whole year hard. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And then the point here is that my kid still comes number 10 because those kids started everything with an advantage. So I'm going to say, no problem, kid. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to carry this on and we're going to see who's the last kid left. Do you understand? We're going to go on for another 5-6 years. We're going to see. My kid can't.
We're going to play to year 11.
That's not going to be healthy for your child, man.
Bro, I'm saying.
Bro, obviously, the point is that we're talking about it. Like, it's.
As in, look,
obviously,
someone
I'm using
might
you now
genuinely
because,
be.
I disagree with your example in the first place.
Someone might genuinely just be.
I know, but there's no situation where all 10 kids are racing for the whole year and practicing the highest level.
In the same way, there's no situation where one kid tries every single day either. We presented the scenario to separate the effort from the outcome.
My thing is there's like 2 or 3 things.
Sometimes you just have to look at your child and say, listen, this sport is not for you. You did really good. I really rate what you're doing. But this is just not for you. As in, you don't praise.
So my thing is that there'll be 2 or 3 things that I want my kid to be perfect at, inshallah ta'ala.
Okay. And
I will put in every effort that I can as a parent to make sure this kid acquires mastery, 10,000 hours on each thing.
Sure.
And they will be praised as they progress amongst the continuum of achievement until they become the best. And I'm not looking at effort. I'm looking at results.
So if they don't try and they win anyway, you're happy with that?
That's deep.
Can zoom into my face?
I don't think about that.
Because that actually came to my mind as well. Yeah. The point is that, like, for example, look, in school, I got by with minimal effort. I did my GCSEs early. Pause.
Honestly.
So that, in my mind, that built... One second. Don't interrupt.
Don't
interrupt.
Please, don't interrupt.
You want him to talk to me?
No, him.
Let me finish my point.
Good effort.
Thanks, bro.
What I forget what I was going to say. So me, growing up, bro, I was like, this is calm. As in, bro, I don't need to study. I get A stars. I was getting A stars left, right, and centre. Bro, with no effort. Some exams, I did them early. I was helping the other class with their... But come college now, it's a different ballgame. What I was used to now, of no effort and just getting achievements. Now, bro, that wasn't good enough. And then you go to uni, it's a completely different ballgame. You got even more independent. The point is that effort
Nah,
because there was
effort
some
is
use.
jarring, I can't lie. E for effort. You want your kid to get an E. You put in good effort.
No, that's an
Next
insult.
gonna say E, F is up. You got an F.
No, that's an insult.
And you're gonna say good effort. Say, Dad, I tried. I got an F.
You know what, let's just move on.
Listen, that is
Let's not bring these straw man arguments. Listen, you said E for effort. Bro, let's move on. Let's move on. Let's
I'm
move
going to
on.
answer to his question.
Go on,
Right,
go
Jamie,
on,
please
go
let
on.
me ask the question again so we can be real out of this.
So the kid doesn't try and succeeds anyway. Are you happy with that?
No, but he would have lost to himself.
How does he know that?
I'm here to measure him.
You're
I'm his
going to
coach,
tell
I'm
him.
his dad.
Wait, you're going to tell him that he didn't try hard enough.
No, yeah, of course.
No.
No,
Efforts.
So is that not ever? Is that not admonition based on effort?
no. Like, I'll give you an example. Let me give you a practical example. So let's just say that we're using like sprinting as examples. Obviously, I don't really care too much about sprinting. I do want my kids to have a very healthy and high VO2 max. But
Sure.
point being is that this is not what we're going to go to war over, yeah? Of
Okay.
races.
No, the reason why I use a race is because it's a very
let's
simple
just
type
say-
of
let's just
competition.
Let's just say my kid won this race in 40 seconds. Okay, he came first place. Yeah? Just say whatever distance it was, 40 seconds, and he came first place. The next time he races, he comes in first, and it was still 40 or 41. Does that make sense? I'll say, bro, you beat the other kids, but you didn't beat yourself. You didn't improve. Does that make sense? So there's a way to measure. Like, we're going to have a Quran competition, and this kid comes out on top, and then he comes out on top the second year, but there's no improvement. Does that make sense? Just because you're number one, it doesn't mean that you're number one in the world, or it doesn't mean that you are the best that you could possibly be. There's still growth here. There's still room for growth. Does that make sense? So my thing is that we're going to now put you up against yourself, my brother. I actually talk to my kid like this. Brother, all these kind of things. Maybe I should stop that. Point being is that put you up yourself. Does that make sense? And then we're going to measure you based on that.
I think let's move on.
I think your son is going to feel like he's never good enough for his dad.
Let's-
If you employ this method,
let's
that's what
have
he's
a-
gonna- he's gonna be like, my
let's-
dad's
bro,
never
let's
happy with
continue
my
this
outcome.
discussion
I came
as
first.
friends.
I came
No.
first 5 years in a row, but I'm still not fast enough.
What do you mean,
I
bro?
think it's good.
But it's just, I'm only never going to be happy if they don't do better than last time.
I think it will be good
That's
to
my point.
continue this
Is that
conversation
you can get third
outside
place.
of this
I would
podcast
love you if that's the first
as
time.
friends who
But
care
then-
for each other and each other's children. And we'll have this conversation.
Yeah, our
carry
kids are
on.
going to race, inshallah. We'll see. Our kids will race, inshallah.
Cool. But my kids will be younger than yours and still beat yours, inshallah. Don't worry.
Should we move on?
He'll be in year
What's
one
that
with
say?
tiny legs this big and still
Come on,
outpace
Sa'ad, I
the
want to hear what you
kids.
have to say about this. No one else speak until the Taz are the ones that are
You know, I
going to
actually
close this
spoke
point.
this. You know, I actually spoke in this session.
You did, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, on your view on this point.
No, the only thing I was going to say is that how would it work for a child if he's always being told to get, for example, like A stars in his exams, and every exam he does, he gets A stars, but the parents still have an issue with it.
No, I'll be so proud.
Are you sure?
Yeah. If you got 90... Look, by the way, personally, I wouldn't... When it comes to exam results, necessarily, by the way, just to put out there, I wouldn't measure my kids' intelligence based on exam results, because exam results are not necessarily the best way to judge a
You're
kid's
talking about
intelligence.
intelligence.
No, I'm just saying, like, my kid might end up getting a C or a D or an E or an F on an exam because that's just not the best way to measure this kid's intelligence, as I'm sure you're...
Yeah,
That's the
definitely,
example of the fish climbing the
definitely.
tree.
Yeah.
right,
literally.
exactly, right? Because some people have different types of intelligences and
Yep.
they learn and kind of manifest their knowledge in different ways. So I don't really have too much of an issue there. My point is, well, I just want you to improve. And that doesn't mean I'll disparage you, but we're not saying that, hey, you got second place, rude boy, twice in a row, you know, I'm not talking to you. No, it's just, my point is that I have the chance now to say to my child, you got second last time, and now you dropped a third. I do feel like there's more work to be done, you know. Let's go back and grind. In an encouraging way.
Even if they spend every spare hour of their life working tools that do, and they...
You know what? You could use that approach when the child's a little bit older.
Yeah.
I don't know what age, because in my head I'm thinking you're trying to tell your...
No.
What age were you? Wait.
Yeah,
Before you mention which age is bad, what age were you thinking?
I was thinking like 6, 7.
Bro,
Like,
you
was like
can't control the market.
And on
you
that
can't control the
bombshell, we
opposition.
run out
You
of
can
time.
only try how much
So we're
you
going to have to
change the
carry on
market.
this episode, part
try.
2. Either that, or I guess we'll just do another recording and just add it on to this
One
one.
really
make it a
big
long
thing that
one.
we forgot to mention is parents who don't make their kids pray at the age of 7, because the Prophet doesn't say, "Muru abna'akum bi sab'in." We didn't.
I did.
We didn't.
I promise you I did.
Say wallahi.
Where?
Wallahi I did.
Okay, we're going to have to...
We've got evidence.
Okay.
With that said, guys,
Make
we'll
your
see you in the next
kids pray,
episode of Child My Bhai. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.